In 2018, 36,560 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents in the United States. The causes for the vast majority of these incidents can be attributed to human fault. Intoxication was involved in 41%, distraction was involved in 10%, and tiredness was involved in 2.5% of these fatal crashes. 94% of crashes in the United States involve human error. These are sobering numbers. Every single one of the 35,560 people was a son, daughter, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, niece, or nephew to a loved one that they left behind. Autonomous driving technology aims to change this by one day eliminating motor vehicle fatalities outright. Society is on the brink of a transformation in the industry, with self-driving vehicles saving lives and making transportation accessible to everyone. This is why I, along with Will Kloss and Mikey Dulaba, related this to trust and trustworthiness in computing module of CSE 262.
So for the history of autonomous vehicles, in 1939, General Motors developed their first autonomous car. This was guided by radio-controlled electromagnetic fields, and then around 1958, they upgraded and equipped the car with sensors. The car was directed by the currents from the wires that were in the road, and then in 1977, Japan used a camera system. This is a good method, although it only allowed you to drive at a maximum speed of 20 miles per hour.
One of the most important parts of self-driving cars is the technology under the hood that makes them work. The system uses GPS to track location, direction, velocity, acceleration, and map data. Companies collect mass amounts of data and use it to train AI so that way it can learn to control the car. A variety of different sensors are used to map the surrounding area. Cameras are used to view the actual environment in 2D. Radar is used to determine the speed and location of objects, cars, and people on the road. Unlike cameras and radar, LiDAR creates a 3D map of the environment instead of a 2D image. Radar and LiDAR are both very useful in low visibility situations where cameras struggle. In addition, some manufacturers use ultrasonic sensors to measure distance. There are 6 levels used to define a vehicle's level of autonomy. At level 0, the car is completely controlled by the human, while the computer assists with information like blind spot detection. At level 1, one automated system is used to help out the driver. Examples of this would be lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. At level 2, the system provides steering and acceleration. However, the human is still responsible for the vehicle. Tesla Autopilot is a good example of level 2 autonomy. At level 3, the human is no longer in control. The system makes decisions on its own. In rare situations, the system may request a human override. Tesla's enhanced autopilot system is capable of level 3 autonomy. It requires no input from a human. It can operate in almost all scenarios. However, it is currently only available in select locations. For example, the company Waymo has about 600 autonomous vehicles, with 300 to 400 of them geofenced in parts of Arizona. Level 5 is not currently available to the public. Here, the vehicle is in complete control and there is no need for any human assistance. Cars with level 5 autonomy have no need for pedals or a steering wheel.
Proper testing and validation of autonomous driving technology is super important. The OEM vehicle, in this case, for example, if you had Uber uses Volvos, so Volvo's vehicles are first tested so they meet safety guidelines when operated normally. After fitting self-driving system components, additional tests are conducted to check whether the equipment is functioning properly. Now that the self-driving hardware is up to spec, the software must be tested. This is by far the most extensive and comprehensive part of self-driving testing. Testing of autonomous vehicle software is done in simulation, in closed courses, and on the road, respectively. Software is usually tested in development as separate parts as well, so that issues can be mitigated quickly. In order to initially train self-driving models over billions of miles, computer simulations are used. Before building a simulation, data about the real world is collected. Every single bit of data is then modeled in a simulation. After the tests and simulation are passed, the software is tested on a closed course to check for unforeseen edge cases. Entire mock cities filled with bicycles, other cars, mannequins, and other hazards are built solely for this purpose. Ford uses University of Michigan's M-City, a 32-acre proving ground located on the North Campus in Ann Arbor, to test self-driving technology, as pictured in the slide right here. Similarly, other companies also have their own self-driving mock cities. Waymo uses Castle, and Uber uses Almono. And only when the autonomous driving software is working as intended, it is pushed to vehicles on the road. Data is collected at every step of the process, from development to testing. If there's any incident on the road, the data is analyzed and learned from quickly. And this is why self-driving technology improves from every test and every failure. In just a few simulations, autonomous vehicles can go from not being able to cross an intersection at all, to hesitantly driving through, to confidently traversing it. The more data that is collected and the more edge cases that are covered, the better for the machine learning models. Now that we know the comprehensive testing that self-driving technologies need to be validated through, the big question is, how safe are self-driving cars? Well, to determine the statistical safety of self-driving cars, they must be compared to human drivers. In the United States, humans drive almost 3 trillion miles every year. Out of these 3 trillion miles, there are 2.3 million injuries and 32,719 fatalities reported. These figures calculate to roughly around 77 injuries for every 100 million miles and 1.09 fatalities for every 100 million miles driven. Some statistics can show how much testing needs to be done before a self-driving car can be deemed safer than a human. In driving to safety, how many miles of driving would it take to demonstrate autonomous vehicle reliability? Nidhi Kalra and Susan M. Paddock of RAND Corporation, a non-profit think tank, calculate these figures. With a 95% confidence interval, they concluded the self-driving cars need to drive 275 million fatality-free, 3.9 million injury-free, and 1.6 million crash-free miles to be at most as dangerous as humans. This assumes the self-driving cars are perfect. But of course, they're not. So assuming the self-driving cars are not perfect, they need to drive 8.8 billion miles, 125 million, and 51 million miles to have within 20% of the true value as many fatalities, injuries, and crashes, respectively, as humans. If self-driving cars can meet this benchmark, they can be deemed to be as safe as humans behind the wheel. To be deemed 20% safer than humans, they need to drive 11 billion, 161 million, and 65 million miles, respectively. Tesla's fleet of over 400,000 vehicles have driven close to 2 billion miles autonomously, according to MIT researcher Lex Fridman. As of early 2020, Tesla Autopilot averages 1 accident for every 3.84 million miles driven. Without Autopilot, that number increases to 1 accident for every 2.10 million miles traveled. Waymo has driven over 20 million miles of real-world roads since 2009. Though it has been involved in dozens of accidents through this time, most were minor at low speeds, and Waymo was not found at fault. There were 0 incidents where there was any serious injury. For example, this Waymo crash in Arizona, the driver in the other car was found to be running a red light. When testing self-driving technology, we need a way to quantify how safe these systems are. So autonomous driving technology companies provide disengagement rates to make comparisons easier. Unfortunately, these companies are not as open about accident statistics, so we do not know the severity of these incidents. However, a disengagement is when a human operator takes over the system because of either the system handing over control due to the inability to make a decision in time, or the human taking over to avoid a possible dangerous maneuver by the vehicle. Disengagement rate is commonly measured in disengagements per 1,000 miles driven. Waymo, a subsidiary of Alphabet, has a disengagement rate of 0.076. Cruise Automation, a subdivision of GM, has a slightly higher rate at 0.082. Now, less experienced ventures like Aurora and Apple's secretive self-driving technology project have higher disengagement rates at 10.6 and 8.35. The lack of experience can be shown by the only 13,429 miles driven by Aurora's vehicles. Zoox, a self-driving startup, has a surprisingly low rate at 0.
And when it comes to regulation of autonomous vehicles, uh, federally, the government doesn't really interfere. They kind of have some more of like a hands-off approach, and most of the regulating actually occurs at the state level. In some states, such as Ohio, they require for you a permit from the BMV that allows you to operate these vehicles that have the autonomous ability. Some failures that have happened during test runs: Google has tried developing their own self-driving car, and between September 2014 and November 2015, they had about 272 failures that would have resulted in at least 13 crashes if their human did not intervene. Google later announced that 49 Google self-driving cars racked up over 424,000 autonomous miles and suffered about 341 disengagements. Uber has also tried doing this. In 2018, they had a crash that involved a pedestrian in one of the self-driving cars. It was later reported that the program was not programmed to react to an oncoming crash. This created a lot of speculation at the time whether the self-driving cars were feasible. And last but not least, we connected this to the trust and trustworthiness section of our notes. Bugs are errors in the software that cause an unwanted result produced by a program. Most of the time in autonomous crashes is due to a bug in the software. And the reason for this is because programming languages such as Java, C++, and Python can only do so much, and there are limitations to what the computer can handle.
The great thing about Ohio is that our cities are hotspots for autonomous vehicle testing in the Midwest. In 2015, the United States Department of Transportation launched the Smart City Challenge to get cities talking about solving mobility problems with innovative, sustainable technology. The very next year, Columbus beat 77 other cities to secure a $40 million grant and $10 million from Vulcan Incorporated. Smart Columbus was created to improve quality of life, grow the economy, provide better access to jobs and opportunities, lead in logistics, and foster sustainable transportation. So, in December 2018, after months of talks with vendors, the Ohio BMV, and Drive Ohio, Smart Columbus launched Smart Circuit, Ohio's first self-driving shuttle that ran a 1.5-mile loop around Scioto Mile in downtown Columbus. The shuttle utilized GPS, cameras, radar, LiDAR, and roadside units to get an understanding of its environment and location. Smart Circuit was intended to educate the public about the benefits of embracing connected, autonomous, and sustainable methods of transit. The shuttle was developed by May Mobility and drove over 19,000 miles without major incidents, though the vehicle operators had to frequently take over the system. Ohioans embraced the new technology with open arms, with 46% of passengers reporting that they were more trusting of self-driving vehicles following their ride on the Smart Circuit. Smart Columbus worked with the Ohio State University to collect data to better study and improve transportation logistics and self-driving technology. The downtown Smart Circuit service was discontinued in September 2019. Following the success of Smart Circuit, Smart Columbus launched the Linden Leap service to provide better access to transportation services in the Linden area. This time, Smart Columbus worked with Easy Mile as their vehicle vendor. In early February 2020, the Leap service was launched. The service ran from St. Stephen's Community House to the Linden Transit Center, with 4 stops on the way. However, on February 20th, during a routine route, the shuttle came to an abrupt, unexpected stop that knocked 44-year-old Taquana Lawson out of her seat. Though she was taken to the Ohio State University Hospital East and underwent precautionary x-rays, she was released swiftly, suffering no broken bones. And here's a video of that incident courtesy of the Columbus Dispatch.
Let's stop. She would be like, man, let me get
Now, this incident led NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, to suspend all operations of Easy Mile's fleet of self-driving shuttles across the country on February 25th while investigations were conducted. As of May 2020, All three investigations by NHTSA, Smart Columbus, and EasyMile were complete, and Smart Columbus intends to get the shuttle back on the road as quickly as possible. However, this could all be delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, preventing shuttle operators from traveling to Columbus to be retrained, and public health concerns.
As self-driving cars slowly roll out to the public, there will be a number of good and bad consequences. Once the technology reaches level 5 autonomy, self-driving cars will be considerably safer than human-operated ones. Owners of autonomous cars will be able to turn their car into a robo-taxi to make money for them while they are not using it. Drivers will no longer need to focus on the road, so that way they will be able to sleep, play games, or work while riding in the car. Driving cars bring a lot of benefits. There are a few drawbacks. Once cars and trucks reach level 5 autonomy, truck drivers, ride-sharing drivers, and taxi drivers will likely see their jobs disappear. While uncommon, it is possible that the system could dangerously malfunction or be hit with a cyber attack, which could be very dangerous. Over the next 10 years, there will be a mix of autonomous vehicles on the road at a variety of different levels. This could be potentially dangerous since each level and manufacturer operates differently.
Self-driving vehicles have the potential to save over 1.25 million lives every year that are tragically lost due to car accidents around the world. These vehicles use cutting-edge technology to solve the challenge of driving safely on a road. The wide rollout of autonomous vehicles will drastically affect the economy and redefine the relationship between people and their cars. Fully autonomous vehicles are still in the far future, but every day we take small steps towards that future, where traffic fatalities are tragedies of a bygone era.